We've got Burrowing Owl clocking in at 14.5% alcohol. And in the other corner, we've got a Gruner Veltliner from Rabel clocking in at much lower, 11%. Anyway, we're talking about alcohol and wine. Ching ching. And that's our topic tonight. I want to hear from you. But first, I would love to know if you can see and hear me. If anyone can chime in and say we are live and I am not just talking to myself in the universe, I'll refresh my page on Facebook. And let's see. Okay, so I will wait for you to confirm that there is life out there. Lynn is here. Lynn, thank you so much for clocking in, chiming in. Is there anything in your glass tonight? Dennis is live, or Dennis is telling me I'm live. It's good to be alive, Dennis. I'm glad you're alive too. So we are talking about alcohol in wine. Is it getting too hot? Hi, Terry. You're sounding great. Well, that's always good at the start, isn't it, Terry? So I want to hear from you. Two very quick questions. Easy to answer. A, do you think alcohol overall is rising in wine? Have you noticed that? And B, do you like that trend or not? And you can have a C bonus question. Why do you think that's happening? So we are going to talk about all of those issues tonight. If you are just joining us, Helena, yay, she's drinking Diet Pepsi. How alcoholic is that? Not so much. Helena, I'm so glad you're here with us. So here we go. Oh, James is here. Gosh, you guys are right on the nose here. I love this. James is drinking a Ridge Paso Robles Zin in Florida. Good evening. Love your show. You are. Love how you spell your. James, that's got to be alcoholic. Can you tell us what the alcohol level is on your Ridge Paso Robles Zinfandel? Because that's one of the prototypical high alcohol wines. And are you loving it? Sharon joins us from Ottawa. She's got the 2014 Valpolicella. And yes, I think the increase of wine alcohol has increased over the years, but I like it. Sharon, you're my kind of gal. Dennis, as long as it tastes great, it makes no difference to me. Now, Dennis, that's a great segue into our topic tonight, because the whole thing about is alcohol rising in wine, is it not? Really, we need to step back from that and say, is it a good thing? And to me, my first proposition would be that it's fine if alcohol is rising in wine as long as all of the elements are in balance. So what do we talk about? Elements. So we talk about alcohol, of course, is primarily one. Acidity, fruit flavor, balance, structure, all of those components are what we call, when they work together and they're all sort of on an even keel, like an orchestra where you don't hear the cello only or the piccolo, you hear just that integration of sound. That's what should be coming through in wine. You don't taste or smell it and say, oh my gosh, alcohol, or oh my gosh, just fruit. You want to have a holistic experience of the wine. James is saying, his Ridge Zinfandel is clocking in at 14.8%, and he loves it. It's rich. Now, technically, port, the fortified dessert wine, port from Portugal, starts at 19%, so you're almost there, James. Terry says, I've got a sparkling water, I was going to say wine for now, but I've got some Montesario for later. That is, I believe, Terry, a Spanish red wine that has incredibly great ratings, and it's very modestly priced. I think that's a really ace wine that you've got there, Terry. Malcolm! Hello from Niagara, Malcolm. What's in your glass tonight, my dear? Okay, so let's kick this off. What I started with, okay. So Malcolm says, drinking one standard drink, 5-ounce glass of Benjamin Bridge Method Classique. He's drinking a sparkling wine from Nova Scotia, and he's being very vigilant. Malcolm, you are a lesson to us all in your restraint. Since you brought that up, Malcolm, let's talk about alcoholic units. So when we talk about, what is moderation what should we be drinking as men or women on a daily basis if we're going to partake. Of course, it's higher for men, and we've always heard it's 2 or 3 drinks for men, 1 or 2 for women. But you've got to consider that when they're measuring those, it's a 5-ounce glass of wine. Spirits and beer are different, of course, because of their alcoholic content. It's a 5-ounce glass. If you imagine if you poured a 5-ounce glass, it just feels really stingy. And we're often talking about between 9 and 11% when they do those traditional calculations. We're talking about much less alcohol than we're used to in our big, I won't say it, glasses from Riedel or wherever we get them, and the higher alcohol counts. So we're going to get more into that as we go into this discussion, but it's an interesting thing to keep in mind because increasingly I see on the back of especially Australian wines, and maybe it's a law or something, but they will show you the equivalent of alcoholic unit servings. And often in one bottle, let's say of full-bodied Australian Shiraz, it's going to tell you that there's like 8 or 11 alcoholic unit servings. So, traditionally I would always think, okay, this is 26 ounces, 5 glasses, 5 measly glasses, 5 servings. But no, actually, if you're counting the actual alcoholic component in this wine, I'm talking Australian Shiraz, it's like 8 or 11 servings. So anyway, something just to keep in mind. Let me go back to the comments here. Dennis, he's drinking Flat Rock Summit Block 2011 Pinot Noir at 12.5%. Pinot Noir and Flat Rock, I love Flat Rock, Dennis. But Pinot Noir in general is one of those red wines like Beaujolais, Gamay. Gamay is the grape for Beaujolais, but Gamay also comes from different regions. Pinot Noir, whether it's from Burgundy, Niagara, or somewhere else, those are traditionally light-bodied reds, and my favorite. I'm a hedonist. I love to prolong my pleasure, and so I don't want to be hit over the head with huge alcohol right up front. And Pinot Noir affords me all the flavor without the heavy alcohol. And I think that's why a lot of people come to Pinot Noir eventually. I'm not saying we're higher evolved, but there's something about Pinot that affords that hedonistic expression over a long evening when you've got 12.5 or 13% alcohol. So if you're just joining us, we are talking about alcohol levels in wines. Are they creeping up? Is that what you see? Is that what you perceive? Do you like it? And why do you think this is happening? Also, just jump in here. Where are you logging in from? What's in your glass? It's okay if it's Diet Pepsi or water. People, I'm not doing my job when I hear that, but anyway, that's okay. Lori, hi. Lori is loyal. Lori is always here, and I appreciate you joining us here tonight again, Lori. Lynn, why do reds have higher alcohol than whites? Thank you for the setup, Lynn. We didn't pre-plan this, but Lynn has asked an amazingly great question, very relevant. So, most red wines are made from red grapes, so they get their color, their pigment, their flavor from the skins of red grapes. You can actually make white wines from red grapes. You don't let the skins touch the juice during fermentation, but red wines must come from red-skinned grapes. And the red grapes for red wines are always left on the vines longer to ripen. So they need that time. It's called hang time. And sorry, Dave is saying his espresso is clocking it at 0% alcohol. I'm easily distracted, Dave. So back to Lynn's question. So red wines, red grapes need longer hang time to develop their flavors. So often it's the warmer climates like Chile, Argentina, southern France, and so on that excel in big red wines with those big meaty flavors, because it's not just a matter of heat units, it's a matter of time to ripen. Time for the skins on the red grapes to thicken. As they thicken, they develop their flavors, their concentration, their colors, their pigments. We call it phenolic ripeness. and they really need that time to develop those flavors. And of course, those are the flavors that go into the wine, because when the grapes, those red grapes, are crushed during fermentation and then they're allowed to sit in the juice, we call that maceration, that's when the juice, which ultimately becomes the wine, is absorbing all that color, that flavor, those compounds, the tannins that we get. All of that goodness is extracted out of the grape skins, because obviously the grape skins are not going to be in the wine. I mean, sometimes you'll get that sediment, but that's fine particulate that you can decant out. But really, the grape skins don't remain after maceration, that soak, that long soak to get all that goodness and that flavor. So Lynn, that's a great question. So if you think about Cabernet, Shiraz, all of those big red wines, they need to stay on the vine longer than our zippy whites like Riesling and Pinot Grigio and so on. And therefore, as a result of Mother Nature, more sunshine, longer hang time results in higher alcohol, because sugar converts to alcohol. So more ripening means more sugar means more alcohol. And that is the exact sort of almost direct equation that we get for red wines. So there you go. Sharon says, hi Nat, I've never had a good Pinot Noir. We must have an intervention, Sharon. I hear it's a finicky grape. It is. They call it the heartbreak grape because it's so hard to grow. It's expensive. It breaks everybody's heart except for when it's great. It's like a bad boyfriend. What would you recommend for a newbie Pinot Noir to seduce us to the other side from Big Heavy Shiraz and Cab Sauv Club? Yes, you must come over, my dear. So, Sharon's in Ottawa. So you have a great selection from Ontario. So start with the Flat Rock Pinot Noir that we were just talking about, Sharon. Start with Toss, Tawse from Niagara Pinot Noir. Amazing. There's so many Pinot Noirs. I want other people to jump in and recommend some Pinot Noirs that Sharon can drink. She needs to switch over to the light side with Pinot Noir. Now the comments are coming really quick, so I got to keep up here. Paul has joined us, probably with Patty, maybe Paul, from Virginia. Yes, having a glass of Pinot Noir from California, 2010 vintage, just getting to the cusp of age. Oh, then your comment went, oh my goodness, this is coming too fast. Sorry, I'm so glad everybody's here. Lori says, so many great Pinots. Malcolm says, Hidden Bench Pinot from Niagara. Yes. Dave says, love Toss Riesling. Outstanding. Yes, Dennis. And great Pinots, of course, too. Dave. Now, I wonder if I can see other comments, because I lost... This is coming. It's great. Okay, Tom, great discussion. Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Tom. And Lori, oh yeah, Tom, Norman Hardy from Prince Edward County. The Old Third, where's that from? Lori, is that Niagara? I should know this. Chris Topher is currently drinking Clausen Chase Pinot Noir from Picton County, Prince Edward County, sorry, Picton. That is an amazing one to try, Sharon. Okay, so, I'm just trying to keep up with them. Wow, there's so many comments flying in. That's so amazing. I love this. We're gaining momentum, people, but I've got to try to keep up and yet convey some information to you. Yes, Prince Edward County is fabulous. Okay, so where I was starting with at the beginning of this video, and if you're just joining us, we're talking about alcohol levels in wine. Are they creeping up? Question 1 for you. Yes, no. Do you like it? Yes, no. Why? Why? So, Paul. Oh, Paul, thank you for chiming in again. From Virginia, Paul and Patty. He's drinking Ken Wright from Oregon Pinot Noir. Oregon is an amazing region for Pinot Noir. We don't get enough of them here, Paul. But I visited Oregon for the Pinot Noir Festival, you know, IPNC or whatever the acronym is. Every July, it's an amazing event. So Sharon, if you want to get full indoctrination, go to the Pinot Noir event in Oregon and ask Paul for more recommendations. So I started with a Burrowing Owl from BC, the Meritage, and that is Meritage, not Meritage, We don't need to get fancy in French because this is an American root word. And it's clocking in at 14.5%, which is high. Dennis says he has a Pinot Blanc from Flat Rock. Yes. Called it Rouge until... Oh, a trademark infringement. Pinot Blanc was a little odd. Not sure I'm understanding that complete comment, Dennis, so you can elaborate, please. What I really found interesting, folks, was that I had two Burrowing Owl wines. So I had the 2013 Meritage, and then I also opened the 2013 Cabernet, and they were both at 14.5%. The Meritage tasted medium-bodied almost to me. Maybe I'm getting insensate, I don't know, but I think it's because it's a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, probably Cabernet Franc, and I think the Merlot is lifting that and making it feel more plush, less dense, less heavy, less darker, and less alcoholic. I found it extremely interesting that these two wines from the same vintage, same winery, this one's a blend, this one is not, tasted like this was medium, this was full body to me. Have you ever discovered that yourself? Like that different grapes will give you a different perception of the same alcohol level. It's pretty amazing. Lori says, La Crema from California. That's a heavier Pinot Noir, Shannon, to try. I love it too, Lori. I love it. La Crema is always so good. And I like La Crema when they go to Monterey County, which is a cooler climate within California. And that's a good segue again as well. So when we think of regions, a lot of us think, oh, California, it's all warm. It's not, just like Australia. There are regions within California that are technically cool climate because they are moderated perhaps by the Pacific Ocean. So the cool breezes roll in from the Pacific Ocean. The fogs in the early morning slow down ripening. There's not as much sunshine. So we want to be careful not to generalize and say, okay, California, it's all one big clump and it's all a warm region. It's not. So Monterey, when La Crema Pinot Noir comes from Monterey, that is my favorite. So La Crema also comes from Sonoma, which is also cool climate. I'm not sure if I'm saying it wrong, aren't I? It's not La Crema, it's La Crema, C-R-E-M-A. But I think of it as La Crema because it's so creamy and rich and lovely. Not sure that they do a warm climate California wine. I don't know if they do Napa. Does anybody know? Anyway, I know they do Sonoma, which is cool climate because it's right on the Pacific Ocean. They do Monterey, which is a bit more south in California, which is also cool climate, which is pretty cool. So anyway, Sharon, you're piling up the recommendations, my dear. I hope you're making a shopping list as we talk. Malcolm says, also the Santa Lucia Highlands, which is a subregion AVA, an appellation for the states. They call them AVA. Up here we've got VQA, over in Italy they've got DOC, in France they've got AOC. So talking about AVA, an approved appellation, viticultural appellation. So the Santa Lucia Highlands in Monterey has some awesome Pinot and Chardonnay. While I'm thinking about it, the Miramar Estate Pinot Noir, I think that's Monterey. It's absolutely stunning. Dave says, any Balchador Pinot Noir is great. So Thomas, I'm probably massacring his last name, Thomas Balchador started off with Le Clos Jourdain in Niagara. Then he went on to do his own thing because he's brilliant. And so he makes Pinot Noir in Oregon, in Burgundy, where he learned his trade, and now in Niagara under his own name, his own label, because he's since left Le Clos Jourdain. And you're right, Dave. Anything by Thomas Balchador is pretty amazing. Lori says La Crema also does Anderson Valley well. Anderson is part of Sonoma, so again, we're in cool climate territory. So let me go back to Burrow Owl. So they were both 14.5%. And what I found with the Meritage is I would want to drink that over an evening. And yet I know alcohol is alcohol. It's going to have the same effect. But on the palate, it has an entirely different taste because it's so imbalanced. Now, I'm not saying the Cabernet is not imbalanced. It's just I feel it, I smell it, I taste it. It feels like a big wine to me, and it demands a big, rare, juicy steak. Perhaps the tannins are at play. I'm not sure why the Cabernet tastes so much bigger than the Meritage at the same alcoholic level. The only thing I can chalk it up to is that there's Merlot in the blend softening out elements, taste elements with the Meritage. Any theories? I'd love to know. If you're just joining us, we are talking about the creeping levels of alcohol creeping up. Do you agree? Do you like it? Why do you think it's happening? So let me talk about the opposite end of the spectrum, because we have so many choices for light alcohol wines that are not wimpy, that are full of flavor, that are terrific. And let's talk about some of them. They often tend to be light whites. To your point, Lynn, about why are reds more alcoholic, let's talk about the reverse. White wines, like this one, it's a mouthful, Gruner Veltliner, which is the classic grape of Austria. This is 12.5%. Often they'll come in even lower than that in the alcohol level. Why are they lighter? First of all, they're in a climate that's cool. So again, our direct math or equation says less sunshine, less ripening days translates to the grapes. So less ripening of the grapes, lower sugar. Sugar is what converts to alcohol. So sugar plus yeast equals CO2 plus alcohol. All right, that's the math. If I could draw it out, I need a whiteboard on these things. But when you have lower sunshine days or heat units, you are not developing as many sugars in the grape. And it's sugar that can convert to alcohol with the help of those yeasts. Speaking of those yeasts, there's some really sneaky yeasts out there on the market these days, cultivated, or what do they call them, turbo boosted bionic yeasts that have specially been made to convert certain sugars in grapes to higher alcohol because of market demand, or so goes the explanation. So getting into reasons why alcohol is creeping up, is it market demand? Is it critic scores that are just rating the high alcohol wines higher? That leads to a whole discussion about, is a wine serious, quote serious, if it doesn't have high alcohol? So, when we think of novels, so a 600-page novel, that's a serious novel. How about a novella that's less than 100 pages? Is it still a serious work of art? Maybe this is a stretch with the comparisons, but I think I'm throwing it out there for debate. So can a wine be serious without high alcohol? I think it can. I think it still can be packed with flavor. And I think it's perhaps also a measure of our culture. We expect bigger explosions in movies. We want, more saltier foods. We want, well, not all of us do, of course, but at restaurants, they're slathering on the butter even to our steaks and putting on the seasoning, and it just seems to be ratcheting up everything sensorially. But is power and concentration necessarily better quality? I'm getting a bit too philosophical for my own good. But okay, so back to the comments. Lori says, not to be off topic, why not? But the winemaker at La Crema is a Canadian woman from Niagara. Do tell. I want to know her name. That's great, Lori. Thanks for the tidbit. Lori says also, In addition, is that addition allowed everywhere? It's probably less expensive wines. Is that addition? I'm not sure what you mean there, Lori, but I'm going to comment something about this. So when it comes to alcohol wines, alcohol and wines, tax levels are dependent on this. I don't know if you knew this, but wines usually, like this is going to differ by country, but I think generally in Canada and the US and maybe Europe, when a wine hits over 14%, it then graduates into a higher tax level. So there is an incentive for wineries to understate alcohol levels. Not saying they all do it, but there is a range of 1 to 1.5% alcohol that they can use. So let's just say the wine in reality is 13%. Laws say you can put 11.5 to 13, 14, 14.5. So that range could be on the label, even though what the reality is may be different. So there could be a wide range from what you see, and there is the motivation for taxes. So you will see a lot of wines, on the label they're at 13.5. Do you notice that a lot of wines are just labeled 13.5? So a lot of them may be, but I think there is that tax motivation, because once you hit 14 or just over, you are suddenly into a higher tax bracket based on alcoholic content. Something to keep in mind. So you're drinking something that's labeled 13.5, but maybe it's 14.5, maybe it's 15. Something to think about. Gwen. Gwen is here with us from Ottawa. She loves the light, flavorful wines. Yes, seriously. Yes, I do too, Gwen. Like Toronto's from Argentina. What else is floral and light? Viognier, Marsanne from the Rhone, although they can clock in at heavier alcohol levels. Riesling, of course. Oh, Lori, yes, the addition of super yeasts. They are allowed everywhere. Yes. Yes, super yeasts, you're right. That's what they call them. They're probably into the less expensive wines. I don't know, Lori. I don't know what the guidelines are. But we're seeing more and more of those. So Tom is saying it's never a fault of the wine reviewers. So Tom, thank you for that. I've lost the thread as to what you're referring to, but I appreciate your support. Tom also says, is the alcohol content a North American phenomenon? Now there's a really good question, Tom. So the old hackneyed story from people who have read too much and been in this business too long is that poor Robert Parker, no, he's actually very successful, the uber critic, US critic Robert Parker of the Wine Advocate, who really rose to prominence in the 1970s and 80s, is responsible for high alcohol wines. Why is that? Because he tended, or so analysis said, tended to give higher scores to bigger wines. So they accused him of loving fruit bombs. And, you know, I have not done the analysis. I think sometimes it's just easier to label someone as something in order to put it tidily away in our mind, which I think is really unfair. But, as I said, for better or worse, Robert Parker is often blamed for the rising content of alcohol in North American wines, but also abroad, because he was so powerful. He was the first to popularize the 100-point scale, and he gave his highest scores out of 100 points to the biggest wines, again, as the analysis is purported to be. So I would love to hear from others on this debate. What do you think? Do you think the high alcohol rise is just a North American phenomenon? Let me tell you, Tom, apparently 1970 and back, Bordeaux wines used to be 12% or less. And then they did another analysis. 1982 was the vintage that Parker called the vintage of the century, but many other critics chimed in. It was a warm vintage. And then going forward, Bordeaux wines got increasingly more alcoholic, whether the vintage was warm or not. So they're leaving the grapes on the vine longer for more hang time, for more sugar, for more alcohol, for that style that perhaps is more market driven, more wine critic approved. And they have found statistically that the overall alcohol level of Bordeaux wine, so we're talking whole world, not just North American, has crept up significantly to 13 or 13.5 is now the average in the 80s and 90s and beyond. So something to think about. It's not just North American wines. Okay, hey, you're currently drinking Westcott Pinot Noir. That's lovely. Are you loving it? What alcohol level is that Westcott Pinot? Okay, I'd like to know. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Apologize. Correct me if I'm not. Greg is here. Yay! Robert Parker, RP as Greg refers to him, occasionally gets dogs sicked on him in Bordeaux. You're right, Greg. Apparently there's at least one winemaker that sent his dog out. Poor Robert Parker. Sometimes they just don't appreciate all the hard work. Anyway, Tom says thanks for the insight. Okay, I have only talked about three wines. Let me get on with this. Let me figure out what else I have here. So, another light white that my friend and mother, Anne MacLean in Nova Scotia, loves is Dr. L. German Riesling tends to be lower in alcohol consistently. So we're talking about a cool climate. So again, that whole translation of less sunshine, less sugar, less alcohol. But also they harvest and also ferment the wine not to full dryness. So this is what you call off dry. So you're going to get a little taste of sweetness. And there's always a trade-off between alcohol and sweetness, right? So think about the grape. The grape has sugar and alcohol. And as the sugars go down, now we're talking about fermentation. As the sugars go down, the alcohol rises. So if you want to take it all the way and get all the sugar out of the grape, you go complete fermentation to dryness. And so your alcohol level will end up higher, your sugar level ends up at 0. But if you don't want to do that, as many German Rieslings do not, so cabinet, this would be like a cabinet level. There's various mouth-filling long words to describe German Rieslings that are not dry. But basically, they're taking that sugar acidity ratio, and they're saying, okay, we're going to go part way, we're not going to go all the way. So we're going to still have some natural residual leftover sugar in the wine. So what happens, which is lovely, is we've got 8.5% alcohol. Yes, can you believe it? 8.5% alcohol. Very low. That's as low as we go these days, except for Moscato d'Asti, which is Italian, slightly effervescent, always about 5.5%. I suggest you try that. So the trade-off with this lower alcohol is that we're going to have some sweetness, right? Calories, by the way, come from both alcohol and sugar, so you're not saving on one or the other. But this is a great light sipper over the course of the evening that's not going to make you feel as heavy or as heavy hit as a wine with, say, 15% alcohol, which is where we are when we're talking Italian Amarone. Let's talk about that. So that's the appassimento method. Veneto, northern Italy. It's a traditional method where they dry the grapes on straw mats in open, airy rooms to concentrate their flavors. If you can imagine, they almost go to raisins, then they ferment. So they're adding alcohol and color and tannin and all the rest of it. And you end up with these blockbuster Amarone wines that taste almost like black cherry liqueur, even though they're technically dry. Alcohol does give you the perception of sweetness, even if the wine is dry. So, alcohol is that funny thing that perceptually, not just texture, but taste. Alcohol tastes sweet, even though it doesn't have a sweet component. So, a high alcohol wine will taste like, oh my gosh, did they just mash black plums together and put this in this wine? No, they did not. But if the alcohol is high, you will feel and taste like that wine is sweet, even though you will see in the liquor store XD, extra dry, or 0 on the sugar code scale. So that's kind of interesting. Back to Sharon, perhaps slightly off topic, of course, but as part of my 40 before 40, 40 things to do before I turn 40, you're so young, I'd like to do a couple of wine-related activities. Okay, Sharon, number 1, volunteer to help with the harvest. Good one. 2, squish wine between my feet. Does anyone have any recommendations? Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. Have you watched, there's that silly movie with Keanu Reeves, and then there's Lucille Ball when she was crushing wines. Dennis says, wash your feet, please. Paul says, I hear there are basically 4 groups of Rieslings. Yes, from lower, sweeter to higher, drier alcohol levels. You're right. There's like Cabinet, Spätlese, Beerenauslese, Trockenbeerenauslese. Yes. Gosh. Oh my goodness. Comments coming in. I'm trying to keep up. Lise, Chiret, Gagne, love a Passamento, love Foreign Affair, Niagara. Good. Yes, Foreign Affair Winery, Niagara uses the traditional Italian method of a passamento. And Dennis is back. He says Rich Point in 20 Valley region in Niagara makes some wonderful ripasso style wines. Yes, ripasso, to repass, to take it around and around and around. Lise, I can any great ones you know of. Okay, a passamento, Foreign Affair is a good one to try. Gwen, I find the sweetness gives a sense more of full-bodied as well, despite lightness. You're right. So higher alcohol will also result in a more richer, mouth-filling, mouth-coating texture of wine. Back to Sharon, who needs recommendations of where she can work on the harvest and squish grapes between her very clean toes. Dennis. So, you know what, Sharon, if you email me after this, I'll connect you with some Niagara wineries if that's what you want to do, my dear. Malcolm back. Malcolm visited Andrei Lipinski at Big Head Wines this weekend. Awesome, a passamento. Now, I'm probably saying his name incorrectly, but Andre used to be at Legend Estates. He's been at a number of very good Niagara wineries. So, yes, I'm sure he's doing good things at Big Head Wines. Lise, thanks, Dennis. I'll try them. Oh, good. I love when you talk amongst yourselves. I'll try them my next wine buying run. I go from Sudbury twice a year this fall. And Lori is saying Spiri from Italy. Spiri from Italy makes good ripasso. Just had one from Luna Nero. And I could just read the comments. I'm not going to get to comment. No, but that's okay. I love participation. Greg says Lipinski is also at Culinary. Yeah, I think you're right, Greg. In Niagara, Culinary. So I think I'm still tasting the first wine here, but it's really good. I need to tell you more things. So, one of the naturally low in alcohol wines, champagne, sparkling, prosecco, cava from Spain. Why? Because all of those grapes are grown in cool climates. Again, we've got the math working for us. So, less sunshine, sugar, alcohol. Prosecco. This one is 11%, as are many Proseccos. Cava's often 11.5. This is one of my most favorite sparkling wines, Cuvée Catherine from Henry Pelham, the Rosé, and it is only 12%. as are many champagnes. So beautiful. I love when you can get full flavor and not get knocked over the head with alcohol. Nothing wrong with alcohol if it's all integrated. But, as I say, I'm a hedonist, so this is prolonged pleasure. Dennis, I was so surprised how good Bridgepoint wines were. Didn't expect to visit the winery. And it's not one of those big fancy wineries. Yeah, okay. The wines speak for themselves. Dave, nothing to do with my last name, but Big Head is one of the best in my books from Niagara. That's your theme wine, Dave. Elkie, Cuvée Catherine from Henry Pelham, one of my favorite. I love this real-time interaction. You're here, I'm here, we're hearing each other. Okay, Natalie P.S. used your app before, and I learned a lot from you and wine tastings. Yay! Lise isn't even a plant here. Thank you, Lise. Loving reds forever, but since learned to like whites and bubblies. Tried Hinterland, yes, from Prince Edward County. Mostly Prosecco types, yes. Hinterland, until recently, only did sparkling wines. Now they're veering into a few other wines, but they're amazing at sparkling. Greg, Cuvée Catherine apparently is one of the few wines acceptable to serve Queen Elizabeth. Love that tidbit. I love trivia. Dinner party, drop tidbit, piece of info. Gwen, great marketing with that Henry Pelham. Love the baby. You know what? I gotta say it. I hate admitting this, but I love the packaging. You know, I usually I'm suspicious, and then I'll taste a wine and go, is it all packaging? But this is gorgeous. Anyway, I'm with you, Gwen. Lori, sometimes I feel a light sparkling to go to your head quicker than high alcohol. Any reason why? Thanks for the setup, Lori. I think Lori knows this answer, but so I'm not sure how scientific this is. Anyone can jump in and criticize, of course, but sparkling wine has the CO2, the bubbles, trapped in the bottle, and they say that that is a quicker delivery mechanism to the bloodstream. So that sparkling wine, champagne, you know, champagne goes to your head, goes into your bloodstream more quickly, is what I've heard. I would love to hear if that's been debunked or not, but that's the last I read. That when you have bubbles and you have carbon dioxide? No, yeah, right, not carbon monoxide. It gets in, carbon monoxide probably gets into your bloodstream quickly too, but we don't want that. That's why bubbly has that faster effect, that faster feel of alcohol. Lee says, they made a great Syrah. Okay, that must be Hinterland, I think you're referring to, called Red Herring. That's cute. Oh, is that rosé available in the LCBO? It should be. It should be, Lise, the Henry of Pelham Cuvée Catherine. I think it is all the time. Of course, it's available directly from the winery. You could always order a case. It's so worth it for the holidays. Okay, Hinterland. All right, let's see what else. So, when we talk about whites, we're not always talking about light whites. Of course, we can have full-bodied, higher alcohol whites. I tried to look in my cellar tonight to see what I had, and I was going to grossly generalize about California Chardonnay, and I couldn't. So, but if California Chardonnay sometimes from Napa, or warmer regions, Paso Robles, will have higher alcohol. So California Chardonnay has an excellent badge-like reputation for being gold standard. This is Sebastiani Chardonnay from Sonoma, so it's a cool climate. So often, the other one I was just talking about might have 14.5 at the highest. This one has 13.5, so it's not an example of what I wanted to find, but it's a beautiful wine. Now we go to Chardonnay from the old world, Burgundy. This one is from Louis Latour. So when we have Burgundy, we have Maine Burgundy, and then we have Northern Burgundy, which is called Chablis. Gets colder up there, therefore, you got the math, right? It's lower alcohol. This one is only 13%. I've seen Chablis even a touch lower at 12.5. So it all adds up. More cool whites while we're on that topic. An Albarino from northern, let me just see here. I'm just reading the alcohol level here is 12.5%. Paca and Lola, I love the polka dots. And it's, only 12.5%. It's Spanish, so we often think of Spanish wine as really alcoholic. Not always, especially when it's from a northern region of a country we might think of traditionally as warm. Spain, Portugal, Italy, they all have their cooler, not northern climates where the alcohol level is not as high. Now, a traditional cool climate Italian wine, of course, is Pinot Grigio. This one is 12.5. So there we go. Oh, one more to show you here. Toss. We were talking about Toss earlier from Niagara, Tawse. We were talking about, I think it's Pinot, but this is cool climate Cabernet Franc, 13.5%. Iconic. Really good stuff. All right, starting to feel like the home shopping channel. Just showing bottle after bottle after bottle. And we are at 45 minutes, so I'm wondering if anybody is still out there. You guys are great. Okay, any favorites from Lodi, California? Yeah. Of course, that's the home of Old Vine Zinfandel Lees. That is alcoholic. Often it will clock in at 14.5. So you've got Woodbridge, Elkie still here. Woo! Stamina, Elkie. Okay, so Lodi, Woodbridge, which is a sub-label of Robert Mondavi. What else is from Lodi? People join in, give me some suggestions. Elkie, oh Lord, I'm stuck in Lodi again. Is that a song? Dennis, what's your most cherished wine in your cellar? Oh my gosh. Okay, wait a minute before your comment disappears. Lori, you just slipped off the screen. The comments are coming in like that stock ticker tape. It's so fast. Okay, Red Zinfandel. My goodness. Lori, can you post again? I just missed you there. Ravenswood. Yes, Greg. Ravenswood from Lodi. Or Ravenswood Zinfandel from anywhere. So when you think about Zinfandel, I think about 3 R's. Ravenswood, Ridge, Rosenblum. They all make phenomenal Zinfandels. High alcohol, not all from Lodi, but they're pretty fantastic. So back to the question about my most cherished. Gosh, every bottle has a story, so I would have to say it's the bottle with the most story, right? So maybe something from my birth year, which I've already consumed. Maybe a special gift, maybe a port that I think will be bringing back memories of where it was when I bought it, so that as I open it, that whole Proustian thing about he eats the Madeleine, the biscuit, and it brings back the whole massive novel, the memory and smell, they're all tied together. But if I'm trying to think about my most special bottle, I buy so many and so many come through here. I'm loving champagne right now, but I'm not sure there's a story. I'm going to think on that question. Lori, do you find heavier alcohol wines better with food or prefer them on their own? Very good question. So it depends on the food. So if I'm eating a Brontosaurus burger, or pterodactyl wings, spicy. Of course, I want a big, meaty, muscly wine to go in beside those dishes. So I just don't want a high alcohol wine to overpower the food, Lori. So great question. We're excited. Thank you. Please show us the cellar. You pay money. Come sit there. Please. Paul, I have 2 California Chardonnays. One from Sonoma's called Complicated from Taken Winery. Never heard of that. Really great names. Carlo Trinchero and Joseph Phelps at 13.5 and Blindfold from Prisoner Wine Company, which is really cult. We're into cult wine category now with Prisoner Wine Company. So those are great wines. Wow. Let's see. I think I need to have dinner. I think you all need to have some food too. This is so much fun. This is getting so much more interactive every time we do this. We have a big band gathered around this table, and I love the conversation. Maybe Facebook Live will evolve where I can have little cameras and you're all live and talking. Probably be a very noisy room with us all. Can you comment on fish grape? Is that from South Africa, Lise? I think that's a very good, low price, dependable wine. But you let me know. Also, you're welcome, Malcolm. I will jump in and comment. I do try to follow up and jump in here afterwards and answer questions, because I'm not obviously typing answers to questions. I'm just talking it through right now. I'll post the wines that I tasted tonight. There's so many I didn't even get to. There's a pile of wines over there. Let me just show you. Look at this. It's not my cellar, but look at that. Didn't even get to all of them. Anyway, oh well. But great questions. I'm going to post some links to articles about alcohol and wine in case you want to explore more about this topic. Let me know too. What should we talk about next week? I want suggestions. You're my peeps. You tell me what you want to talk about. I like to have a hook or an angle. Of course, it's always just fun and leave it open mic, so to speak, and you ask whatever you want, off topic or not. But it's fun when we have some sort of organizing principle. You're welcome, Lise. Oh, good. Okay, so guys, I am going to faint soon. No, I'm not going to faint. But I should get dinner. So should you. You take care. Thank you for joining me here. It's really great. I feel like we're really developing a community here. It's a lot of fun. So have a good week. Hope there's something good in your glass tonight and the rest of the week, or whenever you choose to partake. And we will see you next Sunday. Just mark your calendar. I forgot all that stuff. Click share, click like, all that stuff. But mark your calendar for every Sunday night, okay? So it's just there and you know to join us. All right. Okay, next week is Halloween weekend. Yes, I have some spooky wines for you, Sharon. Very scary. Yes, I will have that. Okay. All right, guys.